Welcome to The Real McCoy Show, where we bring on top industry leaders and discuss what makes them the real McCoy. Now, your host, Steven McCoy.
Hello, and thank you so much for tuning in for today's show of The Real McCoy Show. So we are live here in Dallas, and we have our very special guest, Brian Phillips, with us. And we're going to talk a lot about what it takes to buy a home in today's market, because there's a lot of misconception, as always. So we're going to bring you some real step-by-step knowledge that you can apply today and put to work on your behalf. So without further ado, I have our special guest, Brian Phillips with Supreme Lending and the Elite Team. So Brian, how you doing today?
I'm good. I learned how to do my hair today. I've been wearing a hat, flip-flops, so...
Yeah, so I had to get it all back in style.
Yeah, had to Google how to do it.
Oh, man. Hey, I wish I had that problem. Mine's pretty simple these days. I used to have a pretty cool haircut, but nowadays, after flipping over 100 houses, I have a very easy haircut, I like to say. Yeah.
It's good.
So, I wanted to change up our show a little bit, because you've been our guest on for 2 episodes now, and now it's our third time's charm. So we want to break down some real value and, break down the process of what it takes to truly buy a $500,000 home. But before we do all that, I wanted to go and just touch on, a couple of things that are behind the scenes that maybe don't talk a lot about, and that's, maybe more about your family and how you got into mortgage. And, let's hear a little bit more about you, because, at the end of the day, we're here to help people, and we want to work with people that have common bond with us, and we want to know more about you today, man. So
cool.
So tell us about your family. How many kiddos you got?
Got 3.
All right.
It's 13, 12, and 10. If my wife watching, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I can barely remember how old I am.
Yeah.
I've been married almost 15 years.
Awesome.
Been in the game, the mortgage industry, she's been with me since we met back in 2000, 2001. I can't remember. It's getting all
2001-ish?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Been doing this for half my life, so
Yeah.
I've seen the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows.
Right on.
It's been fun. It's been stressful. It's been fun. It's been stressful.
Yeah.
But I've been blessed to have her home, raising our kiddos
that's
since
awesome.
day one.
Yeah.
So everything's good.
Nice. Well, I'll tell you, a lot of alignment there between us two, and I think that's why, we paired up to do this show. My wife and I, we've been married going on 15 years, and, I've been in the business about the same amount of time. Let me ask you this. What led you to the mortgage? Because I know when you were like me, when I was growing up, I had different I wanted to be a race car driver, let's be real. So, I ended up in real estate. But so what kind of led you to mortgage?
So I started in I was a golfer, so I wanted to be a golf pro of some sort. That didn't work out because it's really hard to do. But then I worked at the Tribute Golf Course. I met a lady by the name of Erin Malone at the time, which one of my loan officers was married with her, and got me into, after I got out of mobile home sales, I left the golf business, went into mobile home sales, then went into car sales, and I was like, sales is where it's at.
Yeah,
like, that's where that's when I got in 2002.
Oh, wow.
And kind of started running, gunning as a loan officer, not having a clue what I was doing. And then I ran a branch till about 2007, 2008. And then 2008 is when I got into the actual retail side of it, of purchase business.
Yeah. Wow.
And haven't stopped.
So has that process changed from back in that early beginning to now in 2020? And maybe what are maybe 2 or 3 of the top differences that you can tell us about today?
Creditworthiness. I think with the credit, with everything that's going on with COVID-19, the creditors have really tightened up quite a bit.
True.
2002, if you had a breath of fresh air, you could buy a house, do whatever you wanted to do. I think that's changed. I think a lot of the different investors that we use have kind of got out of this space.
Okay.
So that's kind of changed a lot of the tightening, if you will, because we as a servicer have to be cognizant of that. And so that's something that we're having to continue to watch and monitor.
So mainly it would go back to when you say credit worthiness, is that, can you elaborate more on that? What that
so like minimum credit scores have gone up. Some companies are still maintaining a lower credit score, if you will, but for the most part, most lenders right now are wanting someone to have money in the game.
Yeah.
The down payment assistance programs, they're still out there, but they've kind of limited us as far as that's concerned.
Makes
so,
sense.
for the most part, you're going to have some money to put down,
Right.
and you're going to have a score that's good enough to not be subprime.
Yeah, that makes sense. So is that more in the 680 ballpark? Or?
660 is kind of the better threshold, if you will. We can go as low as 620 in some cases, but for the most part, if you're going into the space that we're talking about today,
right.
I don't want to have anybody in that 660. We're going to figure out a way to get them over 700 potentially to give them the best price.
Yeah. What about your dreams and things you do, recreation on the side? I know boring. Mortgage and real estate, it looks good on HGTV, but let's face it, it's rinse and repeat, the same thing all day long, and so we gotta have a disconnect at some point. So whenever you're not at the office, what do you and your family like to do for fun?
So we're leaving today to go to the lake house. We've been out there with COVID, just kind of pushing everybody out there. So we've been social distancing at the lake house. I love to fish. I love to take the kids on the tube, that kind of stuff. Cool. I'm a golfer. So obviously I like to play golf. I'm a member at Stonebridge. So those are the things that when time is allowed to do. These days, it's unfortunate. It's fortunate and unfortunate that we were just working sun up to sundown. Yeah. But that's for the most part, that's kind of what I do.
Cool, man.
What about you?
Well, as far as our very similar, once again, I used to race cars, and when me and my wife met, 15 years ago, and I was like, yeah, I used to race and all this. She said, isn't that in the past? So why are you talking about it today? No, I'm just kidding. So I still like to drive a little too fast. But as far
I've seen that video of you racing your truck.
Yeah, so there are no, track days, so to speak. Not right now. But as far as the boat, that's a good. Last year, my wife and I decided that, as far as time away from the screen, if you will, for our daughter, who is soon to be 9 next month, and us having that time on the boat and unplugging from not necessarily reality, but just creating our own environment and going out on the boat and having that relaxing time. Got into a little bit of surfing, and it's a big accomplishment for me to be able to do anything that coordinated and just stay up for a few seconds, no less a few minutes. And it's been a good couple runs, but as a matter of fact, today that's what we're doing. And then, like you in real estate, we work weekends. So Saturday and Sunday, those are days we work when we need to. And Sunday, normally we like to go out on the lake. But as far as recreation, that's what we do now. Leanna's on me about getting a pool and all this stuff in our backyard, but we'll see where that goes. We have an appointment on Monday, but that $30,000 vanity pool doesn't exist. So once we see the real numbers, we probably won't be there. But that's good to know, man. Ultimately, there's a lot of golfers in the Metroplex. There's a lot of people who love boating, and family. You're a family guy. I'm a family guy. Ultimately, we believe in the higher calling of Lord Jesus Christ, and we do this to help people. And there's more to it than just selling homes or closing loans, because if your main focus was on production, then you wouldn't have taken this time today to be with us. You told me earlier you have 30. How many loans closing today? 32 loans. So that's strong, ladies and gentlemen. What's an average for an LO for a business loan officer?
Loan officer wise, I think right now anywhere from 5 to, decent loan officers 5 to 10 units is good. Mm-hmm.
You got 32 today.
Yeah, we're doing pretty well.
Yeah, so you might want to listen to what this guy has to say. So there's a lot of people that talk about first-time home buyer programs and what it takes to buy a home. And I felt earlier this week when I called you, I feel that there is a need for first-time home buyers. I get it. There's a lot of people leasing that could probably buy a home for as much as they pay in the lease payment.
Sure.
However, there's a big gap from first-time home buyer to that second or third-time home buyer. And with the average pricing being well north of 400 all over the Metroplex. It's a huge area. We're here for a reason, right? We didn't pick small town USA. Speaking of which, I'm from Tyler, Texas. You're from a small town as well, right?
Ruidoso, New Mexico.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yep. I thought you were from East Texas.
No, I have an office in East Texas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. All right. So how big is that town where you moved from?
Gosh, it's blown up.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know how big it is now, but I probably had 300 people I graduated with.
Yeah.
So
that's what I thought. My hometown, I remember passing the population sign, and it was like 13,000 people or something growing up. Seemed like there was more White House police officers. Shout out to Lee Long, who always pulled me over for a license plate light, and he'd be like, "Oh, your light's out. Hey, what are y'all doing now?" Yeah. So like, what's going on?
They
over
knew
here?
you.
So,
everyone knows everyone.
There's only three people on the road and 7 cops, so you're bound to get pulled over. You better do 35, not 36. So
that's right.
But we moved here to the Metroplex because there's so much opportunity. It's a huge area, but there's also a lot of misconception when it comes to pricing. I had a call yesterday. Lady said, with COVID, I should be able to look at homes at, 350. I should be able to get those around 200, right? Because of COVID. I said, I'm not sure what channel you're watching because the home prices are actually going up right now. Yeah. And so when you and I were talking, I talked about what it would take to buy a home for $500,000 right now in DFW or anywhere in the Metroplex. Across Texas. I'm licensed in Texas, so I know you're probably licensed in multiple states, but I'm only Texas. So let's keep it to Texas. What would that down payment look like? What does a person have to make per year to be in that bracket, so to speak? And also, what is that monthly payment, the down? And I know you can unpack this a lot more. One of our podcasts, you said, stay in your lane, right? So I'm going to stay in my lane because us realtors, we're there to negotiate you the best price on the property, not to do the loan. So premier partner like yourself. So what would it take for a person to qualify, and what do those matrix look like?
So let's just walk through the common misconception is everyone has to put 20% down at that space, and that's not the case.
Yeah.
So conforming limits are at $510,400 in most cases, and in our market, that's basically what it is.
Okay.
So we'll keep it simple with our space, Collin County.
Sounds good.
Then Dallas, whatever. Cool. Okay. So we have different products that allow people to put as minimal as 5% down. It's all predicated upon credit and different things like that. But again, the common misconception is 20.
Yeah.
And that's not the case.
Okay.
But there's different areas where we can actually maximize, where people can actually save more money through different types of areas. And I can get further into that if you want to reach out to me with private mortgage insurance and things of that nature.
Okay.
But 5% down is kind of the play right now. Yeah. We can do monthly private mortgage insurance with that, or one-time premium. There's different types of ways to save money, because if you don't put 20% down, you're paying some sort of private mortgage insurance, right? So we need to figure out what's going to be the best play for the client. And that's where I said we're going to get the scores up. It doesn't really hurt their credit or their actual interest rate per se, but it does hurt them when it comes to private mortgage insurance. It's heavily driven off of credit scores. And so if we can figure out a way, if my team can figure out a way to get a score from X to this without breaking the bank to do that, then that's what we're going to try to look at. So when we pull credit, it's not as simple as just saying, we're going to put you in this loan. I'm going to look at it at a high level going, okay, well, if we did this, what could we do potentially to save them more money?
Makes sense.
So 5% down is kind of the play. 10% down, it's the same as when I talk to a client between the 30-year and a 15-year. The 30-year money is almost near as good as the 15-year money because of everything that's going on.
Right.
The Treasury the Fed's pumped a lot of money into the Treasuries, which is long-term money.
Yeah.
So the rates are pretty much the same. So it's either we go all in or we don't. We either do a 15-year or a 30-year, but the tweener stuff. So like the 10% down or the 15% down doesn't make a ton of sense. I'd rather them keep their money in their pocket than maybe pay off some debt and create more cash flow.
Makes sense. So when you said 5% down, so 5% down is optimum in this market, and then as far as doing a 15 versus a 30, go with the 30 because it's really not a huge difference.
Really isn't.
I know every borrower is different, and I'm not going to hold you to it, and if you're taking notes, don't write this down, but what is an overall general, as of today, what is the interest rate?
We're still sitting in. That's a good question. APR, have to probably disclose that, but I would say somewhere in the neighborhood of the mid threes on the high side in most cases. If clients decide that they want to invest into the actual loan itself, then there's opportunity to maybe go under 3%. So it just depends on the client's criteria. But that's, I mean, it's cheap money right now. I don't care if anybody says, but the problem is people look at on the interest rates online and say, well, I heard I can get, just like you said, the lady said I can get a house for $200,000. Well, the published rate versus what they're actually being charged, I mean, it's all relevant. So you're going to get what you pay for. You can go online and you can work with somebody and they can get you probably a much cheaper rate than I can.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the specialization of how I can save you more money, that's where maybe I'm off by 0.125 or a quarter in rate, but I can save you and your family over the life of loan X.
Wow.
That's the goal.
That's true. And that's another myth buster right there, because so many people are rate driven. What's the best rate? What's the best rate? And the question I asked, what was the rate? Because that I'm no different from the general consumer on the loan side, right? So whenever you say my loan rate is 3.5%, or when I bought back in 2015, no, I don't want to refi today. It was 4.125, but that was prime at that time, and ultimately we get emails and messages all the time. Hey, the rates over here are doing this. You should refi. Well, when you do all the back end numbers, we're about the same. So let's just keep on the path we're on. We plan to sell our home in 2 to 3 years anyway. So
makes no sense.
Might as well just ride this one out. But so on interest rate versus whenever you say you could save them money on other things without giving away your tools or your toolbox, and the reasons your team has got 32 closings versus 8 this month, or you got them today. I mean, for the whole month.
Over 200.
Oh my God. This guy 10Xing over here. Look, he's over 200. Okay, so when
I'll toot my own horn. That's all right.
I'll go work with this guy. No, just kidding. Okay, so on the 200 plus loans, and without giving away too much of the information, because I know every file is different, but let's say they're at 3.5%, right? And they saw something online, they being the consumer, saw an ad online that said XYZ company at 2.9%. But then whenever they got through the pre-qual process, they ended up at 3.1, not at 2.9.
Right.
And then also there's a bunch of other fees. Maybe they had to buy those rate down to get that sticker price, right? So what are the steps of that $500,000 home? What would be, let's say it's at 3.5%, but then are you having to buy down rate, or is that the
Typically
straight
not.
cost?
Now,
Okay.
so it just depends on the client. Like you're talking about right here, we get more respect from, I've gotten a lot of refis, obviously, but I've had a lot of my friends reach out to me going that we heard the rates are this, and when you look at the break even versus what their long-term goal is, it makes not a lot of sense. So we're getting a lot more business from that trust factor than just putting them into a lower rate, because it's either you want to go to the park and tell your friends you have this rate, or keep your rate you currently have and save money long term. Same concept with this. It just depends on the client's overall understanding what's going on. So let's just break down the actual cost.
Cool.
So you have 3 costs when it comes to a mortgage.
Okay.
You have your lender fees,
Yep.
and then you have your title fees, and then your prepaids. So lender fees are typically going to be averaging anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000, and you're going to pay for an underwriter, a processor, closer, and some other ancillary costs. Okay, that's what most lenders are charging.
So if you're taking notes, what's that number again?
Anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000, depending on.
So we're $2,000. We're gonna keep it
so
$2,000.
we sit around $1,600 is basically what our costs are.
Got it.
You have your title fees, which title fees are basically going to be the biggest cost when it comes to title is the title insurance, and typically the seller is going to pay for that cost, right? Because that's basically protecting the buyer from prior to taking possession of the house, going back to the title company saying there was a lien on title, and that's somewhere in the neighborhood of around 80% of 1% of the sales price.
Of the sales price, right.
But typically that's paid for by the seller. Right. Where people get misconstrued, though, when it comes to closing costs, they see that cost on there because we have to disclose that cost. But then they don't realize that the actual seller is paying for that. So let's just walk through the numbers. Prepaids are taxes and insurance. If they decide they want to include their taxes and insurance. In this case, if only putting 5% down, it's required. They're going to have to escrow, meaning property taxes, homeowners insurance, in the actual payment. Okay. So all in cost, I would say around 2.5% to 3% would be the high side of that type of loan product. So if we're doing 5% down, that's 25 and some change, right?
Yeah.
And then you have 2.5 on top of that's another 12. So you're looking at around 30 grand, 30 and some change on that.
So real quick, so we got prepaids, and then the lender cost, and then you have the title policy, which our goal as a buyer agent, whenever I'm representing my clients,
I'm staying in my lane on that one.
As far as the buyer agent, you want to we negotiate on your behalf to get you the title policy paid by the seller, as well as a home warranty to protect your investment for up to 1 year. So anything that wasn't called out in the inspection, well, let's face it, things go wrong. The dishwasher does go out, the cooktop does go out. So it's much better to pay a $30 or $50 deductible than it is paying for a $2,000 cooktop. So whenever I'm representing a buyer, we're going to negotiate them a good price, negotiate the seller to pay the title, as well as the home warranty, and that's where we go on that side. But so that's to your point about the title policy being picked up, and we pride ourselves on negotiating that process.
Good.
So not only finding them the best home at therealmccoyrealestateteam.com, you can go search for a home there. And Brian, where do you apply to get this process started?
BrianPhillipsHomeLoans.com.
That's it. So,
Had it since 2008.
Since
It's
2008.
Very
All right.
generic, but it works.
Hey, it works. That's it. So so now we got the closing costs. They're at 32. Let's call them 32 grand. That's what it's going to cost you down when you're buying.
So you
that
do the if you
500,000.
do the math.
Yep.
Just make sure you do the math properly here. Hold on.
Bringing out the calculator. We want we want to be sure we're not fact checked later.
That's right.
And have all these
Everybody
numbers
like
off.
that's not correct.
Yeah. You said it only costs 500 down. No, I
That's
said
at
it's
25,
32.
so 30. Actually,
Yeah.
you're going to be closer to 36, 37 on the high side.
On the high side. So
Depending on the taxes. So taxes are a big piece of it, right?
Of
So
course,
if you're in
and every county
Briscoe
is different.
versus
Yeah.
Prosper.
Yeah.
So what I typically do is when we put somebody under contract, before we put them under contract, I go
Yeah.
over the numbers with the client,
Good.
make sure that they're comfortable with that number so that we don't have an aha moment going, well, you told us this versus this.
Yeah.
So before we send you the actual pre-approval, we're going to
We'll
make
be
sure
sure.
and go over the numbers first.
And that's something that changed. Like, I know on closing you have the CD and the TRID rules and all this stuff. We don't want to go into all those details, but what about in the very beginning when you get the pre-approval, we get the contract in, and then you send out disclosures. On that disclosure, it's going to, the client has to sign off on that, right? And then at closing, the LO or the company is held to, what's that parameter of percentage that it has to be in?
10%.
10%.
Yeah, but
So-
there's different types of costs associated with that. There's some
Okay.
non-tolerable fees, meaning if we didn't disclose a fee that was on there, we eat
Right.
that cost.
Wow.
We don't penalize the borrower for that.
Yeah.
But a lot of times we can redisclose. The great thing about TRID, honestly, is that the customer's overly informed.
Yeah.
So they're going to sign multiple documents before they go to closing.
Yeah.
The main reason we used to go to closing was because we wanted to make sure that the numbers were correct.
Yeah.
Well, they're definitely correct before we go to closing.
Nowadays.
So, yeah.
And that's all for consumer protection, so that you're not, you don't go to closing and you got this $3,000 gap, and now you've got the moving truck in the title company parking lot, and you're at the title company and you're all excited, and then the wind gets knocked out of your sails because you need an additional $3,000 or $5,000. Well, back in the old days, that's the way it went down, and people were all at odds at the closing table.
They would hate us.
And
Yeah.
you brought your boxing gloves in the back seat. You want to be sure you're ready. No, it wasn't that bad. But at the same time,
Close.
this is more so between the buyer and the seller and,
Yeah.
and the lender. These guys. No, I was just kidding.
We were the bad guys.
So you weren't. Sometimes they weren't there. So we would say, "Oh, it's the lender's fault." No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so. 500,000. You got around $36,000 to $37,000. So drum roll, please. What is that monthly payment? Just on an average.
Around three, depending
grand.
on what we're looking at
Nice.
with monthly PMI versus.
Yeah.
That goes into a very high level conversation.
Okay.
But
Gotcha.
that's an average number. That would
So
be pretty
37 down and $3,000 a month, and that's $500,000. So if you're looking for a home that's 350, obviously it's going to be less. And if you're looking at one that's 600, it's going to be more.
So I
right?
coach people on
Yeah.
this, and it's just like the car business. I mean, for every $1,000 you spend on a house on
Okay.
that space is going to affect your payment by roughly $7 to $10 per month.
$7 to $10. Okay.
And then for every 0.125 difference in rate would be somewhere around 15 to 25, depending on the space of the
Wow.
of the product. So
Pretty
it's
simple.
not a
Yeah.
there's not a huge swing. So when people
Yeah.
balk over 0.125, it's like, well, let me educate you on this. And if it's going to be there, if they're going to stay for 3 to 5 years, it really doesn't mean a hill of beans.
Yeah.
I can save them
Yeah.
a lot more money.
That's
So,
true. That's true. And
That's-
also that could be the difference in getting the home that you really want, or having to downgrade some and not have the office, which your home office would have been crucial during the COVID passing. So we're not going to go into COVID today, but working from home, it would have been great to have that perfect environment. And you want to set yourself up for success, whether it's at home or at your office. So don't give in on your budget over $200 a month, right? There's other ways you can save money, and not to go into the Starbucks close, but $5 a day times 30 days. That's your difference in your house that you really want, or this house over here that's missing one or two things.
Just like, again, staying in my lane, but I hear it so many times. People want to go in and purchase a house, and they say, okay, well, we want to sell our house at top market value, right? But then we want to turn around and we want to buy something at low market value. So you can have a cake and eat it too.
You want a deal, right?
Yeah, exactly. Used to, it would be where we would have to start the negotiations. We want to get the appraisal back because the house value was like take it or leave it.
Right.
And it's kind of settled out a little bit. But I think for the most part, people not being educated in regards to what that difference in sales price is.
Yeah.
To, if you're dropping 10 grand versus increasing 10 grand, the number's not going to move the needle, especially economically.
True.
In that space.
Yeah. So 37 down and then $3,000 a month. So what would
I'm gonna pull something real quick while you keep talking.
Yeah. So basically, I went to the next question is basically to ask Brian, what type of income does that person need to make on a yearly basis? And we always want to be kind to all parties, right? But let's face it, if you're self-employed and you're writing off 99% of your income, then you're going to need to prepare a lot sooner than a person who's W-2'd and getting a paycheck every single week and everything's documented, and then you get a big tax return every year. However, there are different loan programs for people, except for stated. Those went away in the old days. So they
were around before COVID. We were doing bank statement loans, different stuff like
Well, bank statement, but not stated. I just write $2 million a year on a piece of paper.
I guess that's.
And then that guy gets foreclosed on. I don't know why. He didn't really make that. I'm surprised.
It's weird. Whataburger guy making 90.
Yeah, it's like what's he doing on the side? That drive-through is busy. He's throwing some extra ingredients.
It's like Chick-fil-A at a high level.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Brian. So what would that person need to be making a year to qualify for a $500,000 home, or a combined? It would be a combined household.
Depending on the areas. So let's take Prosper for example.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to calculate the taxes to be $10,000 to $11,000, depending on where it is. Okay. Yeah. That's going to be a fluctuation of anywhere from $3,000 to $3,300, depending on whether we go with PMI or not.
Yeah.
Okay. I want that client to make at least 45% of their qualifying income. So what their debts are versus what their income is. Really, in today's space, needs to be around 45 max.
45.
Okay.
So that's also called the DTI, debt to income. Debt to income, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, let's just say they're making, maybe they have no debt. Let's keep it really simple.
Yeah.
No debt.
Yeah.
So you're looking at roughly around 7,000 on the high side.
Yeah.
So $84,000 income could potentially qualify.
Wow.
I'm not comfortable with someone making $84,000 buying $500,000 house, but if there's other income that maybe we can't use and things of that nature, and we're able to qualify and they're comfortable with it, then that's okay. So we're looking at a 45 range on the high side.
Combined.
Mm-hmm.
Combined, so 45.
So debt, so car payments, credit cards, everything. Yeah. Assuming they have no debt. So keeping this example very simple.
Right.
Mortgage payment $3,000 to $3,200. Okay.
Right.
And then $7,000, you back into two of those, it's around 46 or 44%, something like that.
That makes sense.
So
person making 80 to 90 a year, right, with no other debts, or if they have, car payments, credit cards, all this other stuff, then you're going to bump it up to around 120. So $500,000 home doesn't seem that complicated anymore.
No, it's not.
It looked like a pretty far target, just on conversation.
Well, I think the common misconception is 20% down.
Yep.
I don't have that money. Yep. These are push-up homes. People don't realize that they can use. I mean, a lot of people. The other kind of mythbuster is, 401k, IRAs. Those are things that they can use as down payment. Some people don't realize that. So there's different ways to skin that cat. As far as down payment.
And on just a quick note on IRAs and 401ks, so more so on 401ks, because a lot of a lot of times, I have a client, they're like, yeah, we have in our 401k, and then that conversation gets passed up, and then the lender's working with them or you're working with them, and we're further along the process, and then they call their HR and they find out they need to turn in a request, and it takes 2 weeks to get their money, and they're like, it's my money, I can't get my money. No, it doesn't work that fast. Of course, you can use your 401k for emergencies and for home purchases and other, I believe, medical back things. But definitely want to be prepared, and that's why it's crucial to get in touch with your lender first versus or getting in touch with Brian first and getting that pre-approval process going, identifying what that down payment is, what the monthly is, where you're going to get the proceeds from, as well as what does that tax look like, and what are the different benefits of choosing one county over the other and city. And where I live in Light Farms, there's a mud tax that's often been brought up, but at the end of the day, it's on your closing docs. It's there. It should have been disclosed. You signed it, and the mud tax is going down at this point, and the issue we're having is our value is going up. It's not really an issue, but either way, we pay the same payment. That's my point. So,
right.
It's, do I move? Here's one I did want to touch on. So think of Dallas, and you're right now we're downtown. Out behind us, all these cars at 635. So if you're looking for a home in DFW, in downtown Dallas, you're looking at condos. You move up to Highland Park and University Park. That's going to be one of the most highest price per square foot. $1 million plus area, right? So as you hit these outer belts in the DFW, like behind us, the 635, now you jumped up to Dallas and Plano area, up to so you pass 635. It's starting to go down a little bit, not much, but it's going down a little bit.
Still in the loop,
and then you go to you go up to 121. And once you get, I passed George Bush. So you have George Bush, and at George Bush you have Dallas and Plano. Starts to get a little lower. It's still 600, but not $1 million, right? Yep. So then you hit 121. Now you're up to Frisco, and now you're starting to hit the further out. Yeah. And so let's say if you work downtown, every one of these loops that you're passing, that's 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. So if you want the most amount of home for the money, you got to drive, right? Yeah. So if you wanted to be 5 minutes from your office, then it's going to be higher, right? You're paying for that proximity. So you go out 635, George Bush, 121, and then way out to 380. But by the time you get to 380, the house over here in Highland Park, that same house that we live in, I would estimate would be every bit of 1.8 to 2. It's 4,000 square feet. It's built in 15. So you go to these homes over here, they were built in the 30s, and they're one stories. They've been added onto 17 times. Yeah, you're paying for the land, and or if you have a tear down, it's every bit of $2 to $3 million. So there are misconceptions that, hey, we're gonna move to Dallas from LA or from any part of the country, and homes, we get so much more home for our money, and then a person comes here shopping and they say, wait a second, these homes are expensive too. So there are different pockets, and I can definitely help buyers find those pockets of where it makes the most amount of sense,
right.
To get the best home for the best price. And no, there's no 50% off deals. That's online. That's clickbait, on the internet, right? I read that online, right? Yeah. And no, there's no 2.1 interest rates. Those are
you can get it. You just gotta have to pay for it.
Yeah, I guess you could buy it down. Yeah. Couple. How much would that cost? I'm just kidding.
Too much.
Let me talk to you about that later. Yeah. That's good. So what are the kind of the touch points that you see on that buyer going from pre-qual to actually closing on that? Let's keep at the $500,000 home. I talked about further you go out, the more home you get for that $500,000, and also you talked about 37,000 approximately down, 33 to 3,200 a month. Combined household income with no other debts. No other debts.
Right.
That would be around 80 to 90, closer to 90 or 100 grand a year combined. Yeah. So 50 and 50, and we prefer that to be a W-2, not a self-employed, because it gets pretty creative. It can be done, but you have to get creative, right? So, what other questions that maybe I didn't ask that you run across every day that's a roadblock?
I think it's more important now than ever for us as consumers to understand me as a lender, that I'm lending you money, and I need to make sure that you're going to pay us, because we had so many people that have closed on houses that a week later get furloughed.
Wow.
And that's a little bit of a challenge. You guys, as consumers, can't control that.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm going to do my due diligence and make sure that you are good to go. And so there's a difference between a pre-qual and a pre-approval. My team will not send out anything other than a pre-approval. Pre-approval means that I've gone through all the income, the assets, we verified, validated everything. We, as simple as I can put it, we did a pre-approval for you and got snake bitten because the client didn't give us something that we were asking for, and that's the truth. What happened? But those things happen sometimes, so I'm going to do my due diligence as best I can to be able to make sure that client, when I tell you, when I call the listing agent and say we're good to go, this client should be good to go. So pre-qual is just saying we've verbally verified stuff, we haven't done anything, client hasn't said anything. Well, that doesn't mean a hill of beans in today's market. So pre-approval is key. So I think whoever, if you don't use me, make sure that your lender is giving you a pre-approval because that's key, in my opinion. It's buying power.
That's true. That's true. And where do you see the, I know right now there are some areas that have went up as much as 5% in the Metroplex. So with the home prices going up, have you got more inquiries since COVID let's just call it shelter in place has been opened up? Have you seen a huge spike in inquiries, or is it stayed pretty consistent for you over the past few months?
It's starting to pick up.
Yeah.
I think we'll start seeing what should have been Q2 will be Q3.
Okay.
Where we normally slow down in Q4, I think it'll run over.
Just keep going.
And keep going. I think rates are going to stay relatively low. I don't think there's any reason that rates continue to rise. It's because that's a big part of the stimulation as far as the economy is concerned. So I don't see that changing much at all.
Cool. So when's the best time to buy a house?
Now.
So there's a very popular real estate trainer. He says, if anyone ever asks you when's the best time to sell your home, you say now. Well, realistically, and I always, whenever someone asks me that, I always say it depends. And people say, how's the market? I said, it depends. Are you buying? Are you selling? Are you investing? What are you doing? All those matrix are different for that independent consumer. Sure. So it's interesting to hear an agent just say, oh, the market's great. Well, that's gibberish, because the consumer is actually asking you more or less for what their situation is.
Well, and you bring up a good point about the cake and eat it too thing.
Yeah.
Do you want to make top dollar for your house right now? Then sell now.
Right.
If you want to buy something right now, you're continuing to see the rates. The rates of housing market go up, but the actual interest rates themselves are staying down.
True.
So what do you want there? Do you want to keep your house and then rent for a couple months or whatever? Right. That's, it depends. So I don't get into that conversation. I'm staying in my lane. But
cool.
For the most part, if I have somebody that has a house, I'm going to try to figure out a way for them to be able to qualify without selling that house. So it's a non-contingent offer potentially. Could be a little stronger in today's space.
That's a key point. So if you do list your home and you list your house with another agent besides myself, and you choose a different lender besides Brian, then you're crazy. No, I'm just kidding. but anyway, we forgive you. We're here. We're spreading the love. Yeah, kind of. My daughter, no, she doesn't forgive you. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so if you do, whenever you sell your home, you put it on the market, be sure that the offer comes in with a true approval letter. If you want a second opinion, you can always reach out to Brian and his team. All the information is provided down below. If you're brand new in the market and you're looking to get that process started, reach out to Brian. How long is the pre-approval or the approval process? How long does that normally take a consumer to work through?
Depends on if they send us the documentation that I need, I can get it done that day.
Cool.
It's just so it's all predicated upon how fast they get us the documentation.
That's
Typically
true.
what happens is they go through my application. It's really simple. They fill the information out. We then send out a needs list of documentation explaining why we need that stuff.
Yeah.
Get it back from them. We run it through the system, making sure they're good to go.
Cool.
Once we know that, then we let you know it's time to go house shopping.
Awesome. And that does include like a vial and then some scissors to do a hair sample and all that, just like we talked about the underwriting process. They want everything, a blood sample and everything. No, I'm just kidding.
More now than ever.
They just want the paper sample. They want to see the cash.
Yeah.
They show me the money, right? Like Jerry Maguire, show me the money. And if you're new in that process, you got your approval with Brian, the next step is hook up with me and our team, the Real McCoy Real Estate Team. We will work day and night to locate the best home for you and your family. And whether that's an off-market home or brand new on the market, hot new listings, our website is therealmccoyrealestateteam.com. And whenever I say off-market, what I'm referring to is new build inventory. So you got loans that are falling out. You got homes that were built for a consumer and they weren't able to close. So off market, that house, because we are in the know, we are out in the streets every day and we're talking to our peers and our other developer friends, and we're like, hey, this 3 homes just came back available, and I send them out to my clients, and we're beating others to the punch. So if you're tired of looking through all those leftovers, hire an expert and get ahead of the curve and get somebody working for you. So with that being said, that's it. That dropped the mic. Let's roll. So
let me do one more thing real quick. I think it's very important for people to truly understand when it comes to this process. The common misconception is I'm going to get a realtor to go start showing me houses.
Yep.
And it wastes your time, it wastes their time, it wastes everybody's time, where our side is boring. It's boring to talk about rates and mortgages and all that stuff. But we are the ones that are in charge of the money, the cash, the everything.
Follow the money.
We are the number one spot first. And people got to get that in their head, because some people go, well, I'm good. I've got X amount of dollars in the bank and, whatever. And then we come to find out they have a lien on their credit or something like that we can't do. And so those are the things that
I've heard about those.
Yeah,
I've experienced that.
We want to eliminate all the train wrecks.
Yeah, so get your car out of reverse, put it in first gear, and let's get moving forward.
There we go.
So contact Brian, get the wheels in motion, get your money right, and then call me. Let's get you the house. See you next week. Next Friday, we have a special guest, Carter, which is over Grace Bridge Outreach, and we're feeding local families right here in the Prosper and Salina area and all over the Metroplex, and leading people to the number one cause, which is Christ. So let's make it happen. Until next week, let's roll. Peace out.
Thanks for watching today's episode. Check out the links in the description to get more detail on our guest today and all things North Texas real estate.